Looks like I'll go ahead and get started. All right. Good evening, everyone. So thankful that you've joined us tonight to take a little time out of your schedule as you consider, I hope, where you're going to be in graduate school and whether it might be in the microbiome sciences arena. I'm talking to you from my office at Penn State, and I am in this building right here called the Millennium Science Complex. It looks like a bit of a starship, an extremely inspirational building. And right in the bottom there is a nice garden to walk through, an atrium up top, and then the labs are throughout the buildings. There's a whole set of facilities, both in these hallways and also underneath the garden, where we house a number of microscopy facilities. So my name is Seth Bordenstein, and I want to welcome everybody to joining us tonight. I'll tell you who we'll be joined by, and I would encourage you to think about questions that you might want to ask along the way. I'll give about a 15-minute presentation or so. Please type in your questions into the chat box or hold them till the end, and then we can engage in a question and answer session. This is a recorded session, so if anybody doesn't want to be recorded, we will be blanking your picture out and taking you out of the feed. And if anybody had questions that didn't want to be recorded, we will also be taking those questions out of the video. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce myself and then Dr. Nicole Ganon, who's a organizer, project manager of the center and helped put this event together. Nicole, do you want to say hi?
Hi, all. Thanks for attending.
All right. So myself and Nicole are kind of the administrative leads for the One Health Microbiome Center here at Penn State. And our job is to collate all of the activities, efforts, training, new ideas, potential synergies, and integrative grants together for the community. And we're proud to build up a graduate student training program in those roles. So welcome you for joining us. We have had members from 17 countries register for today's event. Some of them probably are deep asleep right now and aren't able to make the time zone. So for those that were able to join us, wonderful. You're gonna have a great personal experience with us tonight. So we also have asked graduate student leaders from Penn State's Microbiome Sciences. Naomi Huntley is the director of the Data Analysis Working Group, which is a graduate student-run group that facilitates microbiome data analysis for peers, for faculty, for labs that might not have the resident experience to do microbiome analyses. And DAWG, for short, the DAWG, is offering monthly workshops and training events for training the community as well. Jamie Spicella is also joining us today. She is the president of Macrobes for Microbes. This is also another graduate student group. And they're really dedicated to outreach, education, and growth of microbiome, art, science, etc., into the community. And that is a wide open lens for however we may contribute. Some of the ideas that they've come up with are to create art and host booths at extension events where Penn State gets out into the agriculture and rural communities. Other ideas are to bring Winnigraski columns into local or statewide museums and showcase microbial diversity, for example, from soils across the state or treated in different soils treated in different ways. For those of you that are just learning about Penn State through this call, I wanted to give you a little bit of a sense of how deep Penn State goes. So these are some numbers of highlights. We're a top 25 research university. Our annual expenditures in research total over $1 billion with a goal of get to $1.5 billion in the next 5 years. And that's a number that just means how much funding is being expended upon for research and science. We have a network of Penn State campuses. So we're calling in today from University Park, which is the main hub in State College, Pennsylvania. But in fact, Penn State has 24 campuses in the state shown in that chart with the dots. And about 95% of Pennsylvanians are within a 30-minute drive to a Penn State campus. And those satellite campuses are often entry points for students to do their first couple of years into a Penn State undergraduate degree, and then they migrate over to University Park for the full 4-year degree, although some of them are 4-year degree campuses as well. Our total enrollment, if you take all 24 campuses, including the University Park, we have about 90,000 students. 40,000 of those are right here at University Park. So we are the behemoth main hub for the Penn State system. In terms of research recognition, there's a number of ways in which this can be expressed, but right here we're listing a lot of the sort of national recognition that our faculty have achieved. So 13 members in the National Academy of Sciences, 13 members in the National Academy of Medicine, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a really robust, large, globally recognized research enterprise, and a lot of that activity happens right here at University Park. Now, you're joining us today through the One Health Microbiome Center and its activities for developing graduate programs and taking your questions and answers. If you haven't heard about One Health, but you have heard about microbiome, I'd like to take a second to just kind of describe why we are the One Health Microbiome Center. So in the world, there are 80 microbiome centers that are collectively part of the Microbiome Centers Consortium. 50 of those centers are right here in the United States, and we're a member and founding member of this consortium. Those centers do microbiome science, but sometimes you might think about a center that has specialty in human microbiomes, or a center that has specialty in environmental microbiomes, or one with a specialty in agricultural microbiomes. Now, the One Health academic units, there's also about 100 of these across the world, centers, institutes, units, and programs that are affiliated with universities. In our mind, One Health really encapsulates the level and broad expertise that we have here at the One Health Microbiome Center. The One Health paradigm is that human health, agricultural health, and environmental health are all linked in some way. That there may be, for example, microbial flow from one of these domains of health to another, and that they don't exist in silos, that microbes, of course, flow through each of these environments and then impact the risk of disease or health or other outcomes that may be relevant to our particular interests. Now, Penn State's Microbiome Center is so large that we encompass all three of these domains instead of just one of them. So this affords a unique opportunity for students that are very open-minded, or for students that think laterally from one specialty to another and how they may be interconnected to solve challenges and questions in the microbiome sciences across all three of these domains. And so let me justify that a little bit for you. In terms of numbers, our center has 530 members, spanning trainees to faculty, so the whole gamut. We have 125 faculty in spanning 42 departments that are members of our center. Collectively, over the last decade or so, Penn State's microbiome scholarship has produced about 1,700 plus publications, putting us into the top output among various microbiome centers. In the context of our membership, we have 160 graduate students affiliated with our center, and we also have, importantly for you and for these grad students already resident, the first microbiome sciences PhD degree in the world. And that's a byproduct of having a dual title program that we'll talk to you about today. So we are on social media, or we're on X, we're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn. You can often find us through this hashtag or handle, or just search for Penn State Microbiome Center and you'll be able to find us. Videos on the YouTube channel and LinkedIn posts and Twitter posts on various activities. Our main website is shown here as well. You can get a lot of information from there that you might want to catch up on after this talk. So please take these down if of interest. Now, the mission of the One Health Microbiome Center is really to think big, bold, and really define and accredit through the kinds of PhD degrees, for example, that we offer for the microbiome sciences in the 21st century. You know, we really look at this field as it's in its first decade or two of what will be a long 100 years of microbiome science priority in the life sciences. And what that means is a lot of these centers in the consortium will be authenticating and accrediting the microbiome sciences some way. And we believe that, you know, what we're doing and what we have done are helping to define and accredit that activity as leaders in the field. We are one of the largest and most active organizations from a microbiome center's perspective, given the numbers you've just heard. We are very clear-minded in optimizing, accelerating, and disseminating both knowledge for textbooks and applications in the microbiome sciences to make life better. And I quoted "to make life better" because that's Penn State's motto, make life better. And so a lot about what we think about, a lot about what the university stands for, is using our land grant mission, our knowledge, our scholarship, our applications to make life better in the state, in the nation, and in the world. So as I mentioned, we're also very interested in harmonizing our broad scales of expertise across these three domains into a One Health microbiome framework. At the leadership level of the Microbiome Center, and a lot of the creative input and energy that directs where the Microbiome Center goes, are 16 members that form what's called the executive committee of our One Health Microbiome Center. And I'm not going to list all of them, but I do want to point out that each person's departmental affiliations are noted under their names. And you can see that we've got about 13 departments represented across 3 of the Penn State campuses in our executive committee, including the medical campus, which Guy Townsend is at, and a primarily undergraduate campus, at which Corian Bakerman is at. And so this broad expertise really is a microcosm of the kind of activity and the ways of integration and thinking we prioritize in our particular center's outreach to students and training environment. A lot of you are coming to us with interest that you've expressed in the online poll, and many of those interests could be lumped into several of these existing PhD programs or departments. And so we wanted to take a second just to illuminate some of the application deadlines. So if you find your particular topic here, take note, application deadlines generally start in December, but some of them will begin in November. So just keep a sharp eye out for where you might fit in this list, as well as other programs that may have caught your attention. For TA requirements, they can vary from 1 to 2 semesters, depending upon the program. For required course credits, you can think about one class being 3 or 4 credits. And so you could divide these credit numbers by 3 or 4 to kind of get a sense of how many classes you would be taking before your qualifiers in order to achieve that status of attempting to qualify for your PhD phase and doctorate phase of the work. Important points, too, are that some of our programs offer pre-application availability. So ecology and biology do this. Now, what this means is you can actually fill out a form, describe your interests and potential faculty you may be interested in, engage in conversations with the department and those faculty to determine if they have availability in their department. And that way you don't have to spend the graduate school application fee if these were your primary interests and only interests. And you can engage in a conversation of whether there's a potential fit there with a faculty member. There are various situations for lab rotations. Biochemistry requires them. They're optional in various other programs, and they also might not be needed in several of these programs. So depending upon what you see here, you could enter into a program that requires the rotations, does not require the rotations, but it may be optional. So for example, the department that I'm in, biology, as well as entomology, you have the option of doing rotations, but if you know who you want to work for and do a PhD with, and it works out well in the first rotation, you can stay there for the rest of your first year. Now, one of the hallmark features and that we've mentioned already is this first in the world dual title PhD degree in the microbiome sciences. So this is super important for you to take note of, because what this does is it allows you to get a PhD in your main program. So that might be biology, that might be bioinformatics and genomics, that might be plant sciences, and then tack on right at the top, the PhD degree is in the microbiome sciences as well. So this means on your CV that you might submit to industry or to a postdoc or to universities, that your expertise, skill set, and training are accredited right up in front with the microbiome sciences degree in conjunction with your major degree. Now, in order to enter into the microbiome sciences dual title PhD degree, you actually will take the normal route of going through one of these main PhD programs and being accepted into those first. And then you will express to the microbiome dual title degree program once at Penn State that you'd like to enter into this particular dual title program. And that's done by expressing the interest before qualifier, which happens generally within the first 2 years. Now, the research part component of the dual title degree is that we require, in order to have this dual title degree, at least one dissertation committee that's chaired or co-chaired by one microbiome sciences faculty member. That's going to be pretty straightforward for anybody with a microbiome sciences interest. And for those that may have an interest, it'll be pretty easy to find a microbiome faculty member from the depths that we offer here. In addition, you can, as a member of the Microbiome Center, qualify for sponsored fellowships and travel awards that we offer, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about those in a few slides. Now, this is an essential element also if the dual title is right for you, because the coursework to get the dual title degree is 15 credits, and we consider that an extra 15 credits to add that dual title component. But the beauty of this is that if you jump down to this third row here, up to 6 of those 15 credits can overlap with your major program. So in fact, there's actually going to be a limited number of credits and classes you would have to take in order to fulfill the 15 credits, because 6 of them could overlap with what you already intended to do. There is a seminar series that is associated. It's a weekly seminar series with our center, and that also offers 1 credit per semester, or a total of 2 credits in the year. So when you boil down the math, you essentially need an additional 7 credits or 2 to 3 classes in order to qualify for the dual title degree in the microbiome sciences with this overlapping component. So here's a portfolio, a sort of buffet table, if you will, of the classes that are part of the options for you to take in the microbiome sciences dual title degree. First of all, notice that we offer some of the greatest numbers of courses in the microbiome sciences at any one university. And then from these, you can choose the few classes that you'd like to specialize in for your dual title degree. It's a requirement that you take at least 1 class or 3 credits from each of these 3 themes. And I imagine as you scope out the classes that are within here, it would be very easy for you to find at least 1, if not several classes that would fit your interests within these categories. They span everything from ethics to microbiome analysis to viral ecology and community ecology and anthropology, etc. So this information can be found at our website, but also if you wanted to double check it, just search for Penn State dual title degree microbiome sciences, and you'll also end up landing at the particular page that houses this program through the plant pathology and environmental microbiology department.
And I dropped those links in the chat, and I'll keep linking things. Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so these are a few pictures of activities that we have throughout the year. The center has a deep bench of opportunities. We won't get into the details, but we will sort of summarize some of those. So we do several networking events. These are large, full-scale center events. People are fed well. We have lightning talks. We have celebrations. We have awards, so forth. We also, as a center, value the grassroots kind of ground-up efforts. And so we are financially supporting not just the big scope activities, but also the leaders of our trainee-led organizations and their activities. Everybody has a seat at the table and counts in terms of our investments. In terms of resources, for those of you that are familiar with the KEGG database, which is a big database of genetic and extra information, we offer free access to this. Normally you have to pay for it, but the center supports it. We also offer free access to computational cluster allocations. Most universities that are high research intensive will have a computer cluster that allows you to do high throughput analyses. It often is a pay structure for that, where labs have to pay for it. But if you're a member of our center, you get access to this for free at a scale that should allow you to do most of your analyses. And that's the kind of thing we want to do, enable research and scholarship and training through these investments. We have additional research opportunities where we bring together faculty, trainees who don't normally talk to each other around common theme working groups. This past year, we formed working groups around reproductive microbiomes, symbiosis and data synthesis, intergenerational inheritance of microbiomes, things that we could get plant people, agricultural people, environmental people, human health people all in the same room together, thinking about big scale networking integrative grants that not each individual lab would necessarily do on their own, but together we create something bigger, and that's what we want to catalyze. In that same vein, we offer interdisciplinary innovation fellowships from the center. These are $5,000 awards to trainees, so folks like yourself, if you join us, that allow you to collaborate with a lab and gain a new skill and bring that back to your lab. So investments in the levels of getting new skills and trainees involved in new kinds of research. We're very much value education and workshops, training events and analytical workshops for bioinformatics. We very much value educational opportunities that are actually external to the center. So the center helps manage an Indigo Ag graduate student fellowship, in which these graduate students are funded by Indigo Ag, an agricultural company. Their salary is supported by them, but those graduate students then network with Indigo Ag throughout the year and will present to them on a visit once per year. Our outreach efforts kind of go out to the world, if not the local community. And so 2 examples of that are, we offered a film screening, for example, of the movie on the missing microbes that came out this past year. And we hosted that at our local state theater, which is a charming theater along our College Avenue area. And we brought 200 members from the community to this event for a free showing to talk about microbiomes with microbiome scientists. And so we had our faculty on stage afterward to do a Q&A session. We also offer a series called Discover the Microbes Within, and I'll tell you about that in the next slide. So Discover the Microbes Within, or also with a subtitle of the Wolbachia Project, is a worldwide effort to bring biotechnology, biodiversity, and bioinformatics at the microbial symbiosis level to high schools, undergraduates, and citizen scientists worldwide. What that means is take a 5-part lab series invented from academia and the university level and make those accessible and free to enable discovery-based science at these levels. And those discovery-based labs are based on collecting insects that anybody can do in their backyard, their schoolyard, extract DNA with a QIAGEN kit, run a DNA amplification PCR with loaner equipment that will send out if you don't have it, run gel electrophoresis on a gel rig that will also send out, and then sequence the 16S gene and do a phylogenetic and bioinformatic analysis with NCBI. And so we have high school and college and citizen scientist students doing this across the world. We have, in fact, 44 states running this program. We have 19 countries doing this program actively in the last couple of years. And one of my favorite stories, personal stories, is that the New Jersey School Teacher of the Year took this program and collaborates with an Israeli high school, and they both sample mosquitoes at a certain time of the year and then share their results on whether they detected this bacterial symbiont Wolbachia inside mosquitoes from these 2 countries, and then what are the infection frequencies of these bacteria. All their discovery, all their sharing, kind of a student colloquium, if you will, at the high school level, facilitated by Penn State Outreach. Other unique opportunities include the following. So I mentioned the Indigo Ag Fellowship. These are 3 of our graduate students who are sponsored by Indigo Ag to essentially complete their degrees. We're also actively working with QIAGEN, the molecular biology DNA extraction company, to offer student internships directly at the QIAGEN company over the summer. And they'll be investing in our user facility and reagents. We have 2 training grants, one funded in reproductive microbiomes. So we often think a lot about gut microbes and root microbes and plant microbes on the surface, or skin microbes on various animals, but we don't often think about reproductive microbiomes. And so we've invested in a first-in-kind training grant in that area. And we're pursuing a training grant in the One Health Microbiome Sciences right now. I mentioned the Interdisciplinary Innovation Fellows already. We fund 6 of these per year, and generally they will go out to graduate students and postdocs. I mentioned already that we have 2 graduate student-led organizations. One's called Macrobes for Microbes on the left, and the other is this data analysis working group. We spent a little time on them, and we have leadership representatives from these groups. And so if you have specific questions for them, we'll be able to take them directly. Okay, so just to kind of wrap up, I think you're entering this microbiome sciences at a time where the field is maturing from its booming beginning to a time when it's now needs authentication, accreditation, and serious development in terms of training and workforce development, whether it be in industry or academia. And what's driving that are lots of pieces of data. You know, the number of prokaryotic genomes in the NCBI database just dwarfs anything else that's there. And this trend will only continue as we discover new lineages and domains of life or related sibling areas in big domains of life, such as bacteria and archaea, that are still undersampled, even though we've got a ton of genomes in those two worlds. The microbiome revolution is happening. We have an enormous amount of publications over time, and Penn State's contributing a good number of these as a leading institution in the area. And there's also a massive market forming for the microbiome sciences and microbial biotechnology. In just a few years, it's expected that there'll be a $300 billion market in microbial biotechnology. That makes a lot of sense because biotech has driven these innovations and will continue to drive new innovations, whether it be in genetic editing of bacteria, symbiotic or probiotic applications to various organisms, activities which the Penn State One Health Microbiome Center is involved in. So I'll just end with this picture of our group. Oops, I think I might have passed it. Yep. So this is a small subsection of our group that met not too long ago at the Penn State Arboretum. We have this 14-acre arboretum free to the public and ourselves, a beautiful garden where we hosted a recent event at. And I hope to see you here one day right here with us, standing in a picture for our future years. So with that, I will wrap up my talk. I'll see if Nicole or anybody else from the center has anything to add, and then we can open up for Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Yes. So one thing I want to note is that Jamie is representing both student groups today. She happens to be the president of one and I think the treasurer of the other. So
social director. Yeah.
But yeah. So we will take any questions, and also throughout, I'll try to answer some of the questions we had submitted online.
Anybody want to start or kind of get us going, or we could start with the questions from online and maybe that'll help people also chime in.
Sure. You can unmute yourself and talk, or you can drop your question in the chat, just so you know. Some of these questions. Yes?
Yeah, my name is Asime Oba from Nigeria.
Hi.
Yeah, it's a little bit late here, but
welcome. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, I just want to know, is GRE compulsory for all the programs? Because in Nigeria, mostly we speak English. You know, in all the schools, we study with English. Our exams are written in English. So it's a bit difficult for us, you know, currently with the current economic crisis, the dollar to the naira is something else. And, you know, a lot of students that want to apply can meet up with these demands because the current minimum wage, we can't meet up with the demands. So that's why I'm asking this question.
Yes.
I'm a microbiology graduate from the University of Maiduguri, Nigeria.
Well, thank you for your question. I'm very excited that you stayed up so late to join us. I will say that Penn State has specific requirements that are above, you know, decisions we can make at the program level. And I just put in the chat those particular requirements. So they have it broken down by countries, and there's countries that are on the exception list who do not need to provide those language tests. So just check to see if your country is on there. And then the main part is that I believe, depending on the program, you could be accepted to the program without providing a proficiency test score, but in order to get a TA-ship, a teaching assistantship, which helps pay for your PhD, you do need to show proficiency in the English language since you would be teaching. So those are just some of the things that we know, but definitely check out those links to get the specifics.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And for the application fee, if you ask the program that you're applying to if they have a waiver, I know that in a number of circumstances, they can provide that.
Okay. I will start the application first thing in the morning. Thank you.
I also suggest those pre-applications if you happen to be interested in ecology or biology. It's a really great way to connect with the faculty and see if you're a good fit for the program before you apply.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in ecology.
Oh, perfect. Excellent program. Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
So if I were to go into, I'm interested in doing microbiology, but also there's a lot of faculty that I'm interested in working with. How does that work when it comes to rotations? Because I know with the biochem microbiology program, you have to do rotations. Does it have to be people within the biochemistry field, or can I pick people within like this microbiome sciences program? How does that work?
Yeah, so I might take that and then folks can add in if they've got more info. But generally speaking, if you go into a departmental program like biochemistry and molecular biology, then you're rotating within that framework of their departmental faculty. If you had broader interest to go beyond that, then your entry route would be perhaps through one of these intergraduate programs that are sponsored by the Huck Institutes of the Life Sciences. That's going to include something like bioinformatics and genomics, or molecular sciences, molecular cell and integrative biosciences, which is MSIBs. So think B&G and MSIBs for those two acronyms of those intergraduate programs. That's going to give you essentially a walk through the park here of any member affiliated with those programs across departments or colleges. So that's a great question, Cassidy, because if a student chooses to go to a departmental program, they're really committing themselves to those faculty. Whereas if you go to a Huck graduate program, those two that we mentioned, wide open. Ecology is another one, another example of that as well.
Yes, and for that specific program, you can do between 3 and 6 5-week rotations. So if you were interested in a lot of faculty, you could visit a lot of them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
Yes.
Yeah, I see a hand up. Yassine, that's correct. That's how you say your name?
Yes, thank you so much for everyone, and thank you for your lecture, Seth. I am very interested in your lecture, and at the same time, I'm very interested in your microbiome or One Health approach because I am PhD students in University of Kent in UK. In the same time, my original I'm lecturer in University or Nineveh University in medical school in Iraq. I think I met in the 2022 in the MIMOP in Switzerland, Omar Harbi. I think you know him. He very interested in that database or like this. You do a course in Switzerland. I ask you two questions. The first question, I have some sample from blood, human and animal. I ask you, we can use One Health approach about the blood sample. We look for what we will search about for example, Plasmodium parasites or the bacteria or everyone in the blood sample. And the other one, I hopefully you will do or you put it in your plan. We do cooperative between the Middle East countries or every global countries or universities, or you do this with your university because this is very important. I think you know Tassos or Anastasios in University of Kent. My supervisor. He starting do many relationship or many international cooperative with many universities, and he do many invitation to the many people. They, for example, in the Egypt, the last week from Egypt, they send it as DNA extraction, and we do PCR, qPCR, and after that we will send it to sequences, and we dealing the sample. I think this is very important. Maybe, for example, me from my country, I will send you sample in the future. I mean, for examples, or the other countries, this is good idea. In the same time, we can cover the One Health approach, because One Health approach should be we including many countries, many universities, many people. This is a huge approach, or sorry, huge project. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for your lecture. I am very interested in your lecture. In the same
Thank you.
time, I am very happy because your English language very nice and very clear. I understand you exactly, because always we international we speak from English language, but the English language global language. And thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Thank you
meet
so
you. I appreciate your comments and also your compliment. Thank you very much. And I agree. The One Health approach is really it's as big as we can make it. And importantly, from the microbiome side, we believe that whatever location, whatever ecosystem you're interested in, if we only think about one domain of the three pillars of One Health, we may not be getting the whole story. And so our aspiration is to think synergistically and integratively across those ecosystems as we chart this path forward in the One Health microbiome sciences. For example, many folks are interested in human microbiomes and health, but of course, those come from our interaction with the environment or interaction with plants and animals. And so if we want to know the origins of infectious disease, we're only going to get a limited scope of that if we're thinking about human to human transmission rather than where the original environmental and agricultural acquisitions can sometimes happen. Thank you.
So I do have a couple of important questions that I want to answer that were submitted online. I think we covered a lot of them in the presentation, but one, there's a question: is there any current work at Penn State looking at environmental microbiomes within the context of social equity? And this is something that we are doing. So our center has a working group that's called Social Biome, and it's where we're bringing together social scientists and microbiome scientists to address these types of questions about social justice and how systemic racism can impact the microbiome and how that can lead to health disparities and all of these types of interactions. So that is something that we're very excited to offer if you're interested in that. The other question, so what important, actually we'll go with the hand that is up.
Hi, this is Mahadi.
Hello there.
Hello.
Yeah, this is a nice lecture. I liked it.
Great.
So I am interested in plant microbe symbiosis. So it is basically the beneficial one. So I just want to know if this falls under ecology or plant pathology.
Yes, it falls under both.
Both. Okay. So
So
if I have
I'll just,
to,
Mahadi, I'll explain that a little bit. So there's a plant pathology department
Mhm.
and there's a plant sciences department. And so they may have graduate programs directly in those two departments. So take notes on those. And then there's an ecology program, which is part of the HUC system that's integrative and across departments. So, those may be three, and there's probably a couple more entry points of the integrative programs across departments that you could fit into with a plant interest. And that's kind of the beauty and scale of Penn State is if you're interested in something, there's not a small little boutique shop in it. We've kind of got a great depth to the system here, that you're going to have plenty of exposure to that particular area.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. And so one question that was asked online was about, should you contact professors before submitting an application? And the answer is yes, always. And particularly for someone who has multiple programs that they could apply to do the research that they're interested in, the best avenue is to reach out to specific faculty members that are doing the type of research that you have an interest in, and then ask them, what programs do they accept students from? And that can help you narrow down what program you want to apply to. Do we have any more questions online? Feel free to jump in. Jamie, do you have any comments about what it's like to be a grad student at Penn State?
Sure. Yeah, so I was the cohort right before the dual title became a thing, so I can't really speak to that, but I'd just like to say that, like, being with the center, everyone's so collaborative, and I've just learned a lot, and I feel like I've learned so much about different aspects of microbial life that I wouldn't if I was in a plant pathology department at a different university. There's really, like, people are not in silos here.
Yeah, good point. I feel like we've covered most of these questions. There was one question about how someone did a master's degree, but didn't have any publications from the master's degree, and then asked if they were still eligible. And the answer is yes, of course. You're definitely still eligible, and you have your research experience. So, you know, you can showcase what you've done. So don't worry so much about that.
Okay, well, if there aren't, I want to leave space. If there aren't any questions, I will just say that some summary points to take home. One is that we are one of the largest and most active microbiome units in the country. With that scale, we're offering this dual title degree in the microbiome sciences, numerous options for entry points into PhD programs, graduate student-led organizations that are supported by the center, that we think that the graduate students are actually our crown jewels, because oftentimes they've got the computational skills in hand already that are teaching our faculty, who are still adapting to a lot of the high throughput bioinformatics, for example. And finally, and most importantly, we're dedicated to training programs built around our microbiome students. And so we're seeing that with the newly funded USDA grant on reproductive microbiomes. We have an NIH training grant going in on One Health microbiomes. We sponsor fellowships for grad students to do interdisciplinary research. So those are some of the highlights. You have some of our information now. You know who we are. Please don't hesitate to think about what your questions are after this meeting. And especially when you're filling out applications and getting down to the nitty-gritty, just remember some of the information we provided here, and do not hesitate to look it up and come back to us for any additional questions and answers. We're thankful that you joined us tonight, especially from very far places. Thank you, everybody. Have a warm, nice night, morning, afternoon, whatever it is at this point. Any final comments? All right.
Thanks for attending.
Okay. Bye.